Farming trophies, money, and combat experience can be a true challenge, especially if you wish to farm all of them at once. So I came up with this in-depth, limited guide for all levels. Hello everyone, welcome to another video, a very different one as you probably noticed by the title. I started playing Dying Light 2 a couple of days ago. I played the first game back then and enjoyed it quite a lot, so I decided to give it a try and share some of my expert knowledge with you. For this guide, I'm going to show you how to easily farm trophies, money, and combat experience all at once in an unlimited way. The concept is rather easy, but executing it can be tricky. Before we proceed to the actual guide, here are the basic requirements. You will need a settlement with UV lights at the entrance, of course, as well as lots of medicine and a few spare weapons to sustain combat. A quick lag will be a plus as well. I mean, a quick lag, of course. Jokes aside, UV sticks can also help a lot, but they are optional. Well then, let's get into action, shall we? The first step is to choose a settlement with entrance UV lights, preferably something at ground level with some sort of narrow entrance and defensive assets. My choice was the Peacekeeper Hub at the quarry end, but there are many other choices obviously. For example, the Bazaar is also fine for beginners, but keep in mind the entrance is too wide and the defenses there are almost null. On the other hand, the Peaky Hub has an excellent entrance, the sides are almost blocked, and even the front is narrowed. So this is, in my view, the perfect farming spot for solo players. Plus, there are several safe houses around it, which makes things handy in case you end up dying. It happens sometimes. Well, once you're done choosing your farming location, make sure to sleep to reset the time and head out only when the night falls around 7 p.m. This way you can get the most out of the night time and optimize your farming efforts. Next, it's time to prepare your setting, and note that at night there are fixed spawns for Howlers around most main settlements. And yes, they respawn every time you die or come back another night, which is very handy because they are our main tool to start chases and ensure zombies will keep coming and coming. For the Peaky Hub, there are 2 Howlers on the left side and another 2 on the right, which is much closer to the entrance, so I tend to stick to those. Well then, let's get into farming. Trigger the Howlers, run back to the entrance and get ready for some intense action. Now the trick to keep the chase going is to position yourself at the very edge of the UV light. For the Peaky Hub, the edge is right here at this line of bricks, as I am showing with the arrows. This way you can use the UV lights to stagger the infected without breaking the chase. The main trick is to keep moving back and forward very lightly, very subtle, and pay attention to your screen and sound too. When you enter the safe area, your screen gets these sort of blue waves, and there's also a sound alert. That's a clear indicator you have to move forward or the chase will end there, together with your chase stacking bonus. And we don't want that, right? Anyway, the goal here is to take down as many affected as possible as fast as you can, and you will face hordes of them. So it's important to keep an eye on your stamina bar, avoid letting it deplete completely or you will most likely regret it. And above anything else, make sure your HP bar doesn't drop too low. Dying is a big no-no for this strategy. Anyhow, this was one of my first attempts, and as you can see, it's a great example of things you should avoid. I drained my stamina, I was too focused on hitting the infected. I didn't even take full advantage of the UV lights, which resulted in my demise, which to be honest was to be expected. Alright, now that you know the basics, let me show you my master trick to crowd control the hordes. Use your train leg to kick them inside the UV light area. After triggering the Howlers, position yourself at the brick line and start the kicking. I use 2 main strats for this. The first one is to block, then move behind them and kick them inside, as shown in the footage. The second way is to attack once or twice and do the same. Get to their sides or backs and push them right into the UV lights. By doing this, you are not just sparing your weapon's durability, as you are also getting free kills. the lights do the job for you, literally. Unlike most games, you don't even have to touch them in order to access their loot, which is fantastic. Now, I know that UV light kills are not always possible, especially when their numbers grow at the edge, so feel free to swing whenever necessary. However, I recommend trying to kick them into the UV lights as much as possible because it will speed up your farming and make the entire process more sustainable, not just in terms of weapon durability, but also in multitasking. While some infected burn through the lights, you can focus on killing different zombies, so it's like you have two sources of damage there. Oh, and it's also wise to avoid getting grabbed, just saying. I already explained the UV light edge mechanic previously, but now it's time to learn something new. It's possible to use the UV edge as a retreat point. There's a 5 seconds give or take time gap, which you can use to shortly retreat before the chase breaks off. It's all about quick reflexes, really. I tested it several times and it's literally 4 to 5 seconds max. I normally just count to 3 and head off to be safe. So if you are in deep trouble, you can always run inside the UV area, deep in, for a couple of seconds to restore some stamina, for example, and then head back out to continue the slaughter. Don't forget to keep using the edge to stagger them as well, or you will get easily overwhelmed, especially in high chase levels. Lastly, I often heal myself at the edge too between waves, just in case an infected rushes or launches at me during the process. That's another tip I can give you here. Well everyone, sometimes it's just not possible to make it. The chase system is quite random, sometimes a dozen of infected rush at you all at once, sometimes only a few come by. And when dealing with random and unpredictable factors, the best thing to do is to play as safe as you can. So don't think twice about ending a chase, it's totally okay and normal. Sure, you lose the extra combat bonus, but hey, you get to stay alive and loot all the goodies from previous kills, so you get to keep the trophies, the money, your life, and the overall night bonus as well. So I think it's a pretty decent trade, don't you think so? I often retreat when my HP is below half, and I spot special infected, like a spitter or a volatile. But overall, if your HP is rather low and there's lots of enemies coming, that's your cue to take a break. In this case, safety is really a better choice than risk. Safety equals more rewards, trust me. Next, if you decide to farm throughout the entire night, you will most likely trigger several chases. However, don't forget to loot the area before you start a new one. I know it's easier to loot everything at once when the bodies turn into bags, but it's not a very good idea to wait that long in this case. Why not, you may ask? Well, I often faced volatiles and boy, oh boy, they are so deadly. Sometimes you spot one and they are already jumping at you and yeah, you're dead. We will talk about this in the next point. For now, just remember to loot as much as possible, otherwise you might lose dozens of trophies and thousands of money in the process. And all for what exactly? One mistake or one bad luck moment is all it takes to lose everything on the ground, so keep that in mind and loot, loot and loot. Lastly, it's a good idea to double check the area when you come out of long chases, as bags can sometimes be tricky to spot during the night. Now let's talk about volatiles. They spawn very frequently during chases, and unless you are super high level already with epic gear, it's not advised to fight them, especially when you are alone. My number one tip here is to turn your flashlight on. Yes, I know I forget it often, but it's really useful to spot infected types. When everything is dark and they all look the same, it's close to impossible to react accordingly. Also, make sure to look at far distances and sides frequently as much as you can. These creatures are silent and deadly, so sounds won't do much for you here. Also, trying to kill them is normally a bad idea. First, because they only need one single hit to take you down, most of the times. And secondly, if they decide to run, they are super fast, and with all the viral hordes after you, it's basically a waste of time to even jump and try to get them. So yeah, best to stay around the safety of the UV area, but keep in mind that volatiles can also jump there and one hit you, as it happened to me here. If you truly want to avoid them, you need to run far into the UV area, risking breaking the chase, or dodge non-stop when they are at close range. The good news is that they are quite cocky and sometimes jump into the UV lights trying to get to you. I even had some of them stuck around the entrance, as you can see. When that happens, that's basically free trophies for you, so enjoy. Now, if you play in a group, then it's a different story. You can easily take them down without much of a risk, because you can revive each other. However, don't let the volatile pick you up one by one. Make sure to attack in numbers all at once, then it's unlikely the volatiles will survive. Plus, if any of you go down, the others can just revive, and that's okay, no problemo. The last strategy point is obviously to try and stay alive at any cost. I know it's really challenging at times, but breaking a chase is a much better choice than dying. First, because the entire area will reset, which means whatever loot you had back there will disappear. Secondly, you will lose all your extra combat experience from the night bonus. Imagine you were all night farming, killing everything you saw, and then a few hours before dawn, you die. Just like it happened to me here. I lost almost 500 combat points, guys, because I was cocky. I thought I could handle that volatile, but yeah, I couldn't be more wrong there. I also had the chase level 3 going on, which means I didn't get to loot several dozens of zombies. It was a huge moment of loss for me, but hey, it's all in the name of science. We learn with our mistakes after all. I hope it's a good example for you guys to learn not to be cocky if you try this guide. So once again, don't be greedy, don't be cocky, play defensive, and your farming results will surely be far more superior. One more note, don't waste time trying to start a chase around 6 AM because that's when zombies start to retreat into the tunnels and dark areas. Also, Howlers, even when triggered, won't be able to summon any more infected, just to let you know. Before I conclude this guide, I want to go over a question some of you may be having. Is it better to solo or co-op for this guide? Or does it even matter? Well, I conducted a few tests and there are a few differences, mainly for combat experience. It seems like there is a shared system for combat. While soloing with double night bonus, I got way more combat experience than with triple night bonus playing in a 4-man group. In both scenes, I was hitting non-stop. Here's a close-up of the gains from the same exact scenes. The gain difference is abysmal, so if your main goal is combat experience farming, you should probably solo. Yeah, definitely solo. On the other hand, farming trophies and gold is much easier and faster in a team. There is no difference for this one. In fact, the gold amounts you get from each infected seems to depend on your character's level, aka progression. For the initial tests, I usually got 20 to 30 gold per infected as solo, and I was level 2. Then later the next day, after one more level, I noticed I was getting more, 30 to 50 gold per body as part of a team. But it has nothing to do with the team, because I also tested as solo, and as you can see, I'm getting also 30 to 50 gold per body. So I don't think it matters if you play solo or team, doesn't matter. You get the same loot, and that's a great thing. It's just the combat that suffers here, but that's to be expected. It's a balancing mechanism, because can you imagine if you would get the same exact experience for combat when you are in a group as solo? Yeah, it would be really, really unbalanced. Finally, what results can you expect from this farming guide? Well, you can certainly expect a crazy amount of trophies and gold. About top requirements to upgrade blueprints. I upgraded so many things already, which is 2 hours of farming. It's really insane. My medicine is not too far off from being maxed out anymore. I also gained 2 power levels with all these night and chase bonuses on top of slaughtering everything I saw. As for gold, I first made around 2k, but I died many times, so it hardly counts. Then with fewer deaths, I managed to farm over 5,500 gold overnight in about 40 minutes or so, which is pretty decent, especially if you consider this is not a money-focused guide. You are farming 3 things at once. Plus, if you end up with lots of spare trophies, you can also sell them to increase your gold profits. Lastly, the higher your character is, the higher and better will be the farming results, so keep that in mind. After all, the gold amounts seem to scale depending on your character's progression. Well then, that's it for this guide. I hope I could help you out a little bit and make your Dying Light 2 life a bit easier. Happy farming and thanks for watching. Consider subscribing and leaving a comment below if you enjoyed the content. I am Marta Branco, and as usual, I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care, adios, bye bye!